Everybody talks about the macronutrients, proteins, fats, carbohydrates. In this space, we've been talking about carbs a lot. How do the other macronutrients affect our appetite? How does it affect our hunger? If we can figure that out, if we can harness that, I think a lot of us would be in better position because it is our hunger that sometimes gets the better of us. It's that taste that we want of that cookie, that candy. As the holidays approach, it's the taste of the things that are on the table. Aunt Sue's pumpkin pie and cousin Ruth's dressing. Whatever it is, for me, it's eggnog. It's Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Yeah, those are the things that get me. How does fat affect our appetite? How does it affect our hunger? That's what we're talking about tonight in this episode. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here in the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. In this year, new you, I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, want to get better in their metabolic space, who want to get off of medication and set themselves up for future success as they move into a better space. Hey, if you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music and let you know that I'm happy that you are here. If you have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments and make sure you put a Q in front of it. So as I look through, I'll be able to see that that is a question that I need to grab and get that answered for you as we move throughout the show. Glad that you're here. So happy to be in this space. We are in the process of a mini series within our series. If you've been joining us, you know that every week I do a 72-hour fast, and I'm actually now right at about 47, almost 48 hours into that fast. And I come on and we do a check-in. We'll talk more about that as we get into the rest of the show. But just wanted to hop over and say hello to all of our community members wherever you're joining us from. If you are on LinkedIn, if you are on Twitch, if you are on Facebook, if you are, of course, here on YouTube and also on Instagram, thank you for coming by and hanging out with us. We're glad that you are joining us in this space. Let's go ahead and say hello. I do see some of our community members out there. Jiyan says, every day you help me a lot. Thank you, doctor. So thanks for saying that, Jiyan. He said, are you fasting? Are you a fasting state? Yes, I am. And like I said, I'm almost 48, 49 hours into my fast right now. Steve says, hello, team. Hey, Steve. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for being here. And Gian says, happy to see you again. So happy time to listen to your lecture. He's saying, hi, Steve. Steve is saying, hi, Gian. And Steve said, wow, you fast 72 hours every week? How could you fast every week? Oh, so Gian, thank you for coming through. And you're in Korea, so thank you for hanging out with us. It is what we do. It is what we do. And it is a process that we go through, and we'll set that up as we get into the rest of the show. If you've not done so, I come on and I give you lots of information in terms of what I'm doing and where I am. One of the shows that we did this week on just a few days ago, I broke my fast. I was in the middle of I was actually at that point probably 27, 28 hour into the fast. And I broke the fast and I shared how that happened, why it happened. There were some emotional things going on with me. And as a result, I broke the fast. And you want to make sure you do that, you watch that, because that does really set up, give an example of real time, because I did that as soon as I got home. I was just on my way home, got home and decided I was going to do that episode. It was an unplanned, unscheduled episode, but I'm glad that I did it. And you want to make sure you get over there and you take a look at that. Awesome. All right. So let's see. So let's go ahead and let's get into what we are doing. So in this space, the plan, the new year, new you path, the journey that we've been on is how do we reverse diabetes. Okay, that you hear me say at the top of the show, I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes. That's the audience we're talking to. And in this space, we've been walking through the journey, we've been moving down the path of reversing our diabetes. As a result of that, we've learned several tools. The tool of fasting. We've learned, of course, balanced bites, which we've talked about. We've learned the HEAT model and the COPE model. Lots of different tools that we've been using in setting ourselves up to be successful, to get off of medication, to improve our metabolic health. And one of the most powerful tools that we have is the tool of fasting. Because fasting hits all of the pillars, and there are three, all of the pillars that we talk about when we talk about reversing diabetes. And they are decreasing insulin, suppressing the appetite, and reducing sugar. When we fast, we hit all three of those, and as a result, it sets us up for success. Remember, insulin is the culprit in the process. We often talk about blood sugar, but blood sugar actually is the result of the fact that we have an insulin problem. But what we have done is we have spent a lot of time in our community, in our society, in the healthcare industry. We spent time targeting the blood sugar, but not targeting the problem, right? That's kind of like, I give the example of you're at your house and there are a bunch of kids that are playing near your car. And, one of them picks up a rock and they throw it and they break the window. And you go and you buy a new window, you fix it, you put the car right back where it was, and it picks up a rock again, throws it, breaks the window. And you go and you fix the car, you buy a new window, you park the car again, the kid picks up a brick and he throws it and he breaks the window. And you go and you buy a new window and you fix it. Well, one way to solve the issue would be to go out and invest in windows. You can go and you can contract with, whoever fixes your car window and say, hey, I just need you to come out and just put some windows out, and every time it gets broken, let's fix it. Right? That's one way to do it. Or you can find the kid's parent and say, look, your kid's breaking my window. Can we stop that? Okay? So one is dealing with the symptom, getting windows to fix the car, and the other is dealing with the problem, finding the parent and stopping the kid from breaking the car. And so what we've done is we spent a lot of time fixing the window. We spent time treating blood sugar. We spent time talking about the mechanism of high blood sugar and how do we treat blood sugar and what do we do about high blood sugar. But we're not addressing the underlying issue, which is an insulin problem. Okay? Now, here is the beauty of this. For those of you who are watching, you're like, man, I'm not diabetic, so what am I going to do? Well, here's the beauty of this. The beauty is that a lot of our chronic diseases, a lot of our chronic metabolic diseases, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, polycystic ovarian syndrome, metabolically associated fatty liver, right, or steatohepatitis, as they've called it. They've changed the name, by the way. So all of the coronary artery disease, all of those diseases are diseases that are worsened and that are produced to some extent from the elevated insulin that we have. So if we are treating diabetes, if we're reversing diabetes and we're using the tools to reverse diabetes, guess what gets better as well? Those other metabolic diseases that we run into, right? High blood pressure, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and on and on and on and on. So the reason that someone who doesn't have diabetes is also getting benefit from this space is because the side effect, y'all, of the things that we're doing is that those diseases get improved. Now, we could easily do a show where we talk about managing high blood pressure by using fasting. We can easily talk about managing weight by fasting. We can easily talk about managing polycystic ovarian syndrome and improving coronary artery disease. We could talk about decreasing the chances of certain cancers by using fasting. So although we are promoting fasting as one of the powerful tools in this space, it can be extrapolated, it can be used, it can be suited for lots of metabolic spaces. And that's why people who are having problems with obesity, people who are having problems with metabolic syndrome, people who are having problems with heart disease and cholesterol and high blood pressure and stroke, that's why people are finding that they're getting benefit. And in the medical community, it is being promoted as a way to hit multiple metabolic diseases. So that's the beauty of fasting. And so as we go through the space, as we go through the pathway, the journey, what we're doing is we are improving our metabolic milieu. We're improving our metabolic state. We're improving our bodies. Someone in the office asked me today, they said, hey, so if I improve my blood sugars, if I fast and I am healing my body, does that mean that later on I don't have to take as much medication? And the answer to that simply is yes, that is what it means. Right? That is what it means. And that's the space that we find ourselves. That's what we're heading to. That's where we're going. In fact, when we are able to get the body to heal itself and do the things that we know it can, there are things right now that you can't eat without getting a blood sugar of 2, 3, 4, 400. But once we heal the body, now let me be cautious, because I'm not giving you permission to go out and just, go hog wild and eat whatever you want and how much ever you want. But what happens is, as we heal the body is very resilient. And there are things that you can't eat right now without skyrocketing your blood sugar that you could then eat that will not cause as big an issue. So every week we come on and we do the check-ins. This is where we are. This is what's going on. We talk about some specifics about fasting, how fasting works. As a matter of fact, if you join us tomorrow on our show, we'll be doing a complete review of fasting. How do we prepare for a fast? How do we get through the fast successfully? And then how do we break the fast? As we go through the days leading up to that review, I'm sharing with you where I am, what my blood sugars are. We look at my ketones. In fact, I didn't even say that, but let me go ahead and pull that over. So we look at my ketones, we look at my reports, and that's what you'll see here. I've got my monitors off to the side, and that one's a little blurry. Let me go ahead and change that. Let's see, why is that showing up like that? Okay, we'll come back and we'll look at that one in just a minute. Actually, let me do that right now because I need to fix it. All right, here we are. Boom, there we go. Okay, awesome. Right? So, so I've got my monitors off to the side, and right below that is my Dexcom Clarity report that we're going to be looking at here in just a little while. Okay? So that's what we're doing. And because we are working to improve our diabetes, our metabolic disease, we're using fasting as that tool. And so the check-ins are, how do we fast successfully? What are some things that we need to know if we understand how the body works and how the things that we put in our mouths, the things that we eat, how we sleep, how we move, the mindfulness that we have when we're eating, the emotional intelligence that we develop. If we understand how all of those affect us, then we're in a better position to make decisions and make changes to improve our health, right? Because remember, our Triple E formula for success: we educate on the channel, we empower, and we encourage. And so this is part of the empowerment, a part of the education, part of the encouragement, because you see we've got some community members out there that are hanging out with us. I'm glad that you're here always, always, always. All right, so let's go ahead, and every time I come on, I do a check-in. And the check-in has 3 different components because these are the places that people tend to struggle. We talk about how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. Physically, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I got good rest last night. I actually stayed up a little longer. If you guys remember when I was talking last night, I just bought a piece of equipment. It's a smoker, right? I'm getting ready to do some smoking, and it's outside right now. I had to get it running and season it, cure it, and all that stuff. And so it's outside running right now. When we get off the show, then we're gonna go check on that, make sure everything is still going okay. Okay, so physically feeling good. I'm not feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, all the things that sometimes are associated with the people tend to associate with fasting. I'm not feeling any palpitations like my heart's racing or skipping a beat. I don't feel drained, right? Often people say they feel that because when the body's transitioning from one energy source, carbohydrates, to ketones, then sometimes you'll feel that dip, particularly if you're not rested. But right now, I'm feeling pretty good. Mentally, your mentation tends to follow what happens with your physical state. If you're not well rested, if you're feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, then sometimes it's hard to think. I'm not feeling foggy or dull or sluggish, not feeling like I'm in a bubble like a lot of people will say. So actually mentally feeling pretty good. And then of course emotionally I'm pumped because I'm here with you. That always gives me energy. And today was the end of my I was gonna say end of my work week. It's not really the end of my work week. It's actually the end of my work week in the office, right? So I got a lot of other things that I do. And so end of that week, getting into this space as I prepare for the next couple of days. And of course, I was excited to get home so I could work on the smoker. And we got some chicken out there that we're going to be seasoning up. And anyway, so you get the idea. All right. So that's what's going on with how I'm feeling in terms of our check-in. Let's go ahead and take a look at blood sugars. And you saw already one of my monitors. That was my Freestyle Libre. And the Freestyle Libre right now is showing that my blood sugar is 83. If you see down at the bottom, there's that white squiggly line. That's what my blood sugars have been for the last 12 hours. If I go over to my Dexcom, I'm 182 according to that. And if I change the 12-hour view, it looks pretty much like the Libre did. If I put my finger, I can now run across. Let's see, let's start from here. So it started 12 hours roughly ago, 130. And as we went through the day, all right, blood sugars are going down and down and down and down. And we'll take a look to see what my daily graphs have looked like, and we'll compare those as we move to the end of the show. So hang around, and we'll take a look at that. And so, of course, now 102. Now, at one point, I got down here to, what's that, 96, 94. I think that's probably the lowest that it got here. If I change this to 24 hours, all right, and come back here, so this was 5 o'clock. When was that? That was today, 5 in the morning. And this spike that you see right here is likely dawn phenomenon, getting ready for work, right? And so that popped up, and then from there it started coming back down. As I mentioned to you, I changed my toothpaste, and so so this spike should not be a toothpaste spike. Although I do use the same toothbrush, but anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. Okay? All right. So now let's take a look at what my monitors are saying. So I've got my Keto Mojo and my Contour. Let's go ahead and grab a strip out of, and we'll get that into the Contour. If you think you know, and I know Steve's out there, so Steve, I want you to put your guess in. And Julian, if you have a guess also, go ahead and put that in. What do you think my ketones are going to be? And right now, 49. hours in the fast. All right, what do you think? What do you think we're going to be? So anyway, so we got that there. Let's go ahead and grab a. I'm going to start with this one, the brown one. That is the blood sugar. The strip for the blood sugar. Let's go ahead and grab that in. And of course, I have the other one open. That's the ketone because I don't want to have to stick myself another time, which if I don't get that ready, I will have to do. And then right into our handy dandy container, we'll grab out. And I don't even know why I keep those other ones in there now because this is the one I use. All right. And let's go back over here. And this is just a twist one. You twist off the top. And when you do that, there's your little needle. Let me move this off the screen for a minute. Okay. And find a spot on the finger. And let's go ahead and get a poke. Ow, 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 ow. And okay, that gave me a good drop of blood. Let's get that one started. Get this one started. Okay. And 90 according to the Keto Mojo, and according to Contour, we're going to be 84. All right, that's just pretty good. Let's go ahead and get this one in. This is the strip for ketones. And I think I see Jennifer out there. Jennifer, what do you think my ketones are going to be? All right, go ahead and get that one started. Let's see, did I get a drop of blood there? There we go. All right. So we got those started, or get that started, and we'll see what that is here in just a minute. All right. So let's get over and let's go ahead and begin our conversation. I'm going to take this off the screen just in case I go to that scene so you don't see it quite yet. But before I do that, let me hop back over and we'll say, let's see what's going on in our chat. So Gian said, what makes and how fasting cure a lot of diseases? Could you let me know how fasting can cure? Is there some principle fasting work? And that's a very good question. And the fasting, the decreasing of the insulin is a huge component of decreasing the metabolic diseases that are associated with fasting. Because remember, insulin is an anabolic hormone, as we talked about a few days ago. Its job is to build. And so insulin can cause fatty liver because it's stuffing sugar into the liver. Insulin can cause high blood pressure because it causes the vessels to be less compliant. So that means increasing. Insulin is a cause of diabetes, right? Because insulin is not doing its job for whatever reason, and there are lots of theories about that. Insulin causes disruption of the pituitary, the cyclical nature of some of the hormones in the pituitary, and so that causes polycystic ovarian syndrome, or it's a big precursor for polycystic ovarian syndrome. Insulin is a storage hormone, so insulin causes obesity, right? So on and on and on, and we can keep going through that list, but that's how insulin affects all of that. Gian said, is insulin really a cure? Not cure, but insulin key and goal to fast? I want to know what is the basic reason for me fasting. Yeah, so insulin is big. Remember we are hitting the pillars, right? So we decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and reduce sugar. Jennifer says, hey, Doc and pals. Gian says, hey, Jennifer. Jennifer said, we had a food day at work today. I enjoyed it. My CGM alarm was wild today. I have it set the sound at 150. Didn't go much higher. I will need to start a fast in a few days to clean my system. Hey, Jennifer, I love that. I love that comment because, as you said, well, not as you said, but as you're illustrating, fasting is a tool. Fasting is a tool that we use when we need to, and we put it down when we don't need it. And here's a good example. Jennifer saying, hey, I know the last couple, or we had a day today, and I was off of my eating plan, and I'm going to start fasting to improve and reverse some of that. I love it. Steve's saying he thinks my ketones are going to be 1.2. Steve's saying, hello, Jennifer. Jennifer says, 57. I'm a terrible guesser. He said, did you say 57? Okay. I love that. All right. So we've been in our series talking about the science of hunger, the science of hunger, because hunger is the place where we often will find difficulty, right? If we didn't get hungry, didn't feel that we were hungry, then we would be able to do a lot of things in our metabolic space. And we talked a little bit in one of our episodes as we introduced this about physiologic hunger, which is the hunger that the body says, I need energy. I need you to go eat so you can provide me with energy. And the psychological hunger, which is where our brain is saying, hey, I'm bored, I'm stressed, this is just how we do. This is what we do at this time. I see everybody eating. It's lunchtime. I remember how Cousin Sue's, Aunt Mabel's pumpkin pie tasted, so I want some, right? So that is physiological, psychological hunger, but not physiologic hunger. And so we've been talking about the science of hunger and how different things can affect hunger and our satiety and our hormones. And we've talked about ketones. We did a general overview of hormones, the ghrelin, the leptin. We talked about how ketones affect our hunger. We talked about how proteins affect our hunger. That was our show from yesterday. And then now we're talking about how fats will help with that as well. All right, so let's hop into that. And you hear me talking, and you've probably heard people say with fasting that fasting helps to keep you fuller longer. It delays the gastric emptying, but we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to understand dietary fats. That's the first thing, dietary fats, and they come in lots of different flavors as we're talking about fats. And you've heard most of us probably have heard some of these terms, and they're the terms that we use when we're talking about fats and where the fats are. So types of fats that we have. And the types of fats, we have saturated fats, and these are fats that we want to limit. We'll talk more about them, where we find them here in just a minute. We want to limit these fats because of cardiovascular health. So saturated fats. We want to, the other types of fats are unsaturated. So saturated fats, there are unsaturated fats. And under the unsaturated part, there are monounsaturated and then polyunsaturated. And the monounsaturated fats actually promote heart health and they reduce inflammation. Notice that the saturated fats are the ones that people often will talk about. Those are the ones that you hear that they're doing all the studies and how bad this is, and you get it from this and that, right? So those are the ones that people are talking about when we're talking about fats. The unsaturated fats are fats that are considered to be beneficial in lots of cases, and as you saw there, they promote heart health and they reduce inflammation as we're talking about the monounsaturated fats. We talk about polyunsaturated fats. These are good for brain health and for hormonal production. Brain health, hormonal production. So polyunsaturated or unsaturated fats are those ones that are beneficial. The saturated ones are the ones that we talk about when we talk about heart disease and so forth. And then trans fats, we want to avoid those due to health risks. And we're talking about where we get those here in just a minute. Okay, so those are the different types of fats that we can have. So saturated fats are fats that we get from meat, butter, and cheese. Right, so these are the ones that people talk about when you hear the studies about clogging arteries and heart disease and those types of things. This is where we're talking about. We're talking about those saturated fats that come from meat, butter, cheese, animal products essentially, right? Because you cannot get saturated fats from non-animal products. Okay? So or unsaturated fats now, you get the mono ones from things like olive oil, avocados, nuts, right? So some of my favorite things. You guys know that nuts and me, like cashews and almonds and all those things, I love them. And then olive oil is one that has been promoted or touted as having good good fats that we can eat. So a lot of people will even put, drizzle olive oil over lots of things, right? So, of course, salad, foods, we cook with it. In fact, I use it sometimes we're going to actually do a show where I show you some of the things I make. All right. Polyunsaturated fats, they come from fatty fish, walnuts, sunflowers, right? We get polyunsaturated there. And then the trans fats, and notice that I said the trans fat were ones that we want to avoid. These are fats that come from processed foods, right? The high temperatures that come from food, the way foods are processed, the artificial nature, and in our balanced bites, as we talk about it, right? One of the reasons that we're avoiding processed foods is this reason, right? So processed foods, because they cause other issues downstream. We won't get into all of those, but just a way of talking about where they are found. These are the fats. Right. So how are fats digested? Because that's an important point as we're talking about what do we want to do in terms of our appetite and in terms of metabolic health. So fats are broken down. They're broken down by bile acids and enzymes in the small intestine. So when we eat food, we chomp it up, and bile comes out, and enzymes come out, and they chop the fat up and they break it down, and then we begin absorbing it. One of the points to be made here is that fats, like proteins, take longer to digest versus carbohydrates. So they're slower to go down, slower to digest. So that when you eat a fat, you don't get the energy from the fat. You don't get the stuff from the fat right away. It has to take time to be broken down, to be absorbed. The bile has to come out. On the other hand, carbohydrates, like I mentioned before, some carbohydrates, as soon as you put them in your mouth, there it is. If I have somebody who's having a hypoglycemic episode, right, we use the rule of 15, and I give them something to eat, right, something with carbs, and I'm checking again in 15 minutes, right, that's the rule of 15, because I'm expecting that within that time, their blood sugar is going up. That's how quickly it is. If you eat some fat, you're not getting the energy from that fat in 15 minutes. Right? So fats they have slower absorption compared to carbohydrates. And one of the impacts that fat has as a result of that is that we have gradual breakdown of fat leads to sustained energy. Right? It helps to avoid energy crashes and excessive hunger because it's slow to break down. It stays in the stomach longer, so we feel fuller longer. We get that stretch. Remember we talked about PYY? Right? So it signals that there's something in the stomach. So if the fat takes longer to break down, it stays in the stomach longer. And we'll see here in a minute that it also helps to reduce the transit or increase the transit time in food as it's in the stomach. We tell people that if you want to blunt the absorption of a carbohydrate, eat some fat with it, because the fat will slow the food, slow the GI tract, and so you don't absorb the carbohydrates as much. Okay, so gradual breakdown leads to sustained energy, helps avoid energy crashes, helps to avoid excessive hunger. So what is the role of fat in satiety? In satiety, remember, is that feeling that I'm full. So there's a hormonal impact, there's a gastric emptying impact, and we'll talk about the result in just a minute. So fats stimulate the release of something called cholecystokinin, so CK, which signals fullness to the brain. Remember when we ate protein releases PPK or PYY. And that says, hey, I'm full, that there's something in the stomach there. Fats, on the other hand, release something called or stimulate the release of CCK, and that CCK sends a signal to the brain that says, hey, I'm full. And then CCK reduces appetite and prevents overeating because the fullness signal has gone to the brain. The brain says, hey, I'm full. I don't have to eat anymore. Okay? Think about eating, and we gave the example of eating cereal yesterday versus eating something high in protein. Now I want you to think of the same cereal, but something now with fat. Right? So cheese or nuts or some other fat source that you've eaten, you will feel fuller and stay fuller longer if you eat that compared to the cereal that you ate. So it stimulates the release or release of CCK. It also slows down the stomach, so the stomach doesn't empty as quickly. Now, let's bring that to another group of things that we've talked about, right? So we've talked about the GLP-1 receptor agonists, right? Those medications that people are using for weight loss and weight management. One of the things they do is they slow the GI tract so that the food doesn't move out as quickly. So here we are, fats, right, are doing one of the things that those medications are doing. Right? So they slow the GI tract so you feel fuller longer. So as a result of that, right, there is fuller longer after eating a meal that's rich in high and of healthy fats. Right? Notice like healthy, I gotta throw that in. Healthy fats, healthy fats, healthy fats. Right, because I don't want the anti-fat people to come after me. So fat and hunger, fat and hunger. So when we eat fats, the fat can reduce ghrelin level. Remember, ghrelin is the hunger hormone. It's the one that says, I need to eat. And when we eat fat, fat reduces ghrelin levels, and this curbs the feeling of hunger. Because remember, if the stomach is not stretched, right, when it's empty, then we have the hormone ghrelin that comes out, and that hormone sends a signal to the brain, and the brain says, hey, go eat. But now that we have fat there, fat helps to reduce that signal, so it's not all constantly saying, hey, eat, 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 eat. So it decreases the noise of hunger. And then, of course, the satiety hormone, which is leptin. So fat enhances leptin sensitivity so that the brain is more receptive to leptin. So we're decreasing ghrelin. Hey, I'm not as hungry. And I'm sending a stronger signal that I'm full. And so the brain, we get a signal to stop eating, right, as a part of that. And so we have that improved hormonal balance, which leads to better appetite and better regulation. So beautiful, beautiful. I love how these hormones work together. So how do we choose fats? How do we choose fats? Well, so we want to enhance our unsaturated fat use. So monounsaturated fats, which is found in olive oil, avocados, nuts, right, which help to reduce inflammation, support heart health, and so forth. Polyunsaturated fats, omega-3, omega-6, found in fish typically, walnuts, flaxseed. And then, so we're prioritizing those, and then now we're coming to saturated fats, right? And we want to use this sparingly, and this is the whole idea when people talk about heart health and fats. This is the fat they're talking about. So choose high-quality sources like grass-fed beef, grass-fed butter, beef, and so forth, right? Because what we're doing is we're trying to improve the quality of the fat that we're having. Now, I'll tell you, when I go to the store and I get a steak, sometimes I have to remind myself that there are certain cuts of steak that have a lot more fat than others. And sometimes, to be honest, I have to give a little smack on the hand for myself, right? Because there's steak, I was like, I don't want that one. That one is like hard, and it has no marbling, it has no, right? That's a whole nother conversation, okay? And as we get into our new season, we'll be talking more about limitless living, and the choices that we make, right? And next week when we do our Dwain Woode Emily Live, we'll be talking about the holidays and special days in our lives, anniversaries and vacations and birthdays and so forth, and how do we navigate those, and the mindset that I'm going to that I'm going to promote that you have, right? And this is not a mindset of, oh, I can never eat, for instance, ribeyes, right? Let me just throw it out there because that's what I like. I like a good ribeye, okay? Versus a sirloin, right? So ribeye has a lot more marbling. Sirloin tends not to have marbling. And so I'm not saying that you can never have a ribeye, but you can't have a ribeye every day, every night, for every meal, because that sets you up for other issues. But it's all a matter of balance, of balanced bites, right? Balanced bites. Come on, come on, come on. There it comes, right? So we want to prioritize unsaturated fats. We want to use sparingly the saturated fats, and as much as possible. And I didn't even put it on there. We want to avoid trans fats, because remember, trans fats are coming from those processed things. I'm gonna say, and at the risk of starting a wildfire, it is probably not reasonable to avoid all trans fats. I'm gonna pause because I just hear the people talking right now. It's probably not possible. Just like for people who are not vegetarian, people who like eating meat, it's not possible to avoid saturated fats. Okay? So the lifestyle that you've chosen, the lifestyle that I've chosen, the lifestyle that we've chosen, right? There are things in those lifestyles that we want to improve. Right? So if you are a meat eater, if you're not a vegetarian, you want to make sure that you are being balanced in your meals. And that's the thing that I want to promote. I want to promote balance. Okay, so choosing healthy fats, not to the exclusion of everything else. Right? I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. There are people who are vegan, people who are vegetarian, and that's how they eat. Wherever you are, you want to be balanced. Okay? So choosing healthy fats. And then what's the role of fats in metabolic flexibility? So metabolic flexibility is the ability that the body has to switch from burning one energy source to another, and to be able to do so efficiently. There's a whole conversation that can be had around that. We did a show, how do you know if you're becoming metabolically flexible? Go back and watch that. It's in the playlist under how to fast successfully. So fats promote energy stability. Fats are slower burning than other, for instance, like carbohydrates. So because you are stable with your energy, then it gives the body a chance to switch over and use that. Fats are a good way, and for people who are doing diets like ketogenic diets, they serve as the primary energy source during ketosis, right? Because that's what we're breaking down. And so if you're eating fats, healthy fats, and you are minimizing carbohydrates, for example, then you are supporting ketosis. You're supporting the ketogenic diet, and it supports appetite suppression during that process. So if you're fasting and you've come out of a eating window and you've been doing a good job of getting fats into your meal, into your diet, then when you get into the fast, then you have a better chance of staying satiated. You don't feel as hungry because your body is still processing the fats that you had. As opposed to if you have carbs, now I'm dealing with insulin, and the insulin has to come out, and that kind of derails me because it stimulates the appetite, it causes weight gain, and a whole other list of downstream issues. Okay? And then metabolic adaptation. So adapting to using fat as fuel can improve metabolic health over time. So over time, and that's what we're promoting as we are fasting, as we are, whatever the fast you're doing a 16-8 or 18-6 or 1 meal a day, ultimate day, 5 and 2, 24-hour, 48, 72 hours, whatever you're doing, what you're doing is you're training your body to become more metabolically healthy, and that sets you up for better health over time. Okay? All right. So what are some practical tips? Practical tips for this. One, you want to pair fats with protein and fiber and carbohydrates. So whenever you're eating, right, try to have some fat in that meal because that's going to help you blunt the absorption of carbohydrates, number one. It will help you feel fuller longer because it slows the GI tract. Number one. So pair fats with what you're eating. Number two, be mindful, right? Savor the food that you're eating. Savor it slowly. Because remember, if you eat slowly, then you are eating less. You're enjoying the food. If you're enjoying the food, it sends a signal to the brain, right? And a lot of it is a mind thing. Next, you want to be a good meal planner. Incorporate fats into your meals as you're planning them, as you're prepping. I had somebody in the office today telling me about how well they prep. They prep all the time. So as you're prepping, right, look to make sure that you have some fat, right? Whether it's olive oil, whether it's nuts that you're putting in there, almonds. If you have some fish, right, make sure you're having some fat in the meals that you're eating, and that will help you stay satiated longer. And then portion control. I cannot speak enough for portion control. Because even in our healthy eating, if we don't do a good job of portions, we still can derail. We still can set ourselves up to have a difficult time in healing our metabolism. Right? So make sure that you're doing a good job of portion control. And then here are just some couple of myths. So myths: eating fat makes you fat. Eating fat makes you fat. So the reality is that healthy fats, when consumed in balance, support weight loss. Oh, let me come over here. They support weight loss, and it supports weight maintenance. Because as we just said, it slows the food. It has a sustained energy when you're eating fats. It helps you feel fuller longer, so you send a signal to the brain to not eat. So that is not a true myth, that eating fats makes you fat. Myth number two, all fats are bad. Well, no, we just talked about the difference between trans fats and saturated fats and unsaturated fats. So not all fats are bad. Healthy fats are essential for hormone regulation, brain health, and important for metabolism. And when you're eating, right, you want to have a dietary focus. Prioritize quality over quantity when it comes to fat intake. Quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. Awesome, awesome. And then we're continuing our series, and I mentioned to you that we would, we've got these 2 episodes today. We did 2 last week. We did 1 next week, but now I've added another one. So in the series, we're going to be talking about overcoming hunger strategically. How do we do that, right, in this space? And then what about fiber and hunger, right? That was another one that we added. And somebody sent me a message to say, hey, there's another topic I wanted you to talk about in the science of hunger. So we may add that. But right now, this is where we're heading, right? Overcoming hunger strategically, next one. And then what about fiber and hunger? How does fiber play into what we are doing? Awesome. All right, so let's hop over. Let's see what's going on. What's going on over here? I see a lot of comments in the chat. Let's see. Let's go back up. Okay, so we saw the guesses for ketones. And then Jennifer says, cool evening here, which call for hot cocoa using fresh cream from the local dairy, cocoa powder, allulose. It was okay, but popped better with vanilla. I like it. I like it. Steve said, do you drink raw milk, Jennifer? Jennifer says, yes. When I pick up from the dairy, it is still warm. Warm from the cow. Most of their cows are A2 awesome milk. Yeah, there's a place when I lived in Ohio. There's a place called Young's Dairy that we used to go. They had sorry, I'm not. Yeah. I was gonna talk about ice cream. Okay. Steve says, we have a Mennonite farm about 25 miles away. I've been told they have raw milk. I've got to get some. Jennifer says raw milk can be a shock if you aren't used to it. Taste and texture is different. It is. It doesn't stay homogenized. It doesn't. But the fat will separate. Yeah, um, when I was growing up, we used to drink. We used to get fresh milk, actually cow's milk and goat's milk. Right. So for those of you who are out there who may have had that before, it is great for cooking, making yogurt and cheese. My grandparents had a milk cow when I was a kid. Pasteurized milk is like water. Dr. Wood, we use beef tallow. Ah, Steve, there you go. So as I was working on my smoker, I looked at some recipes, and there was a guy that somebody sent me a video, and he had trimmed the brisket, and he had taken all of the trimmings. Of course, he had the meat part and then the fat, and he was putting that on the putting that in the smoker, and he was rendering that down, and he was going to strain it for the tallow. Steve says no seed oils, no seed oils. Jennifer said we used to eat closer to the land, but got away from it. I gained weight. Now we've been working to get back to the basics. Big garden, raise both egg layers and broiler chickens, local lamb and beef. Jennifer, every time you talk about what's going on out there, I keep saying we got to do a trip. It's going to be called the Dwain Woode MD Community Road Trip to visit Jennifer. We eat meat, chicken, eggs. I eat avocado every day. The only veggies we eat are fresh. We haven't eaten anything out of a can since the first day of the year. We do a raised garden that we are adding to. Awesome. I love that. I love that. See, look at all of this that's going on in the community. All right, so let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's take a look at blood sugars. And Steve, I saw your guess in there. We're not coming to that quite yet. So this is my Dexcom Clarity report. And you'll see that my average blood sugar right there is 116. Let's see. Can you guys see that? There it is. 116 is my average blood sugar. I'm in target 98% of the time. Target being 70 to 180. Let's see. Are you guys seeing that? Let's look at this one. Are you guys seeing when I draw? Looks like my pencil isn't working. But yeah, 70 to 180. My glucose management indicator is 6.1. Right down there, and my average is 116. If I change this to a 90-day, because that was 2 weeks, if I change this to a 90-day view, you'll see that my average blood sugar is 130. I'm in target 90% of the time, and my glucose management indicator is a 6.4. Okay, so if I were to get an A1C now, that's what it would approximate. Let me go ahead and see. I'm not sure why I can't see my mouse. Let's try that again. Okay, still not working. But if I go ahead and we're going to hop over and take a look at my daily graphs. And so now we've been fasting for over almost 50 hours now. So we started fasting on Tuesday right in here. Right, so 83. So we had been fasting for 24 hours starting after our show, and then broke the fast right in here when that unfortunate event happened with the FedEx people. So if you're from FedEx, I keep saying it, it was not good customer service. It was not. It was terrible customer service, by the way. So right there, and so started fasting there, and here's where I had to change my sensor. That was 24 hours, and then today 48 hours, right? And then of course I don't have more because I uploaded this earlier. So right at 100 right now. So we'll wait to see what that looks like as we get further into tomorrow. All right. And so let's go ahead and let's take a look right over here. We get this one off, And let me go ahead and pull up my Keto Mojo and take a look at what my ketones are going to be. And let's grab this one. No, let's grab, oh, which one? Yeah, there we go. Grab this one. All right, so let's get this over and take the strip out. And of course, I've got to turn that on. And we're going to go ahead and sync. And you'll see down at the bottom what my ketones were last night when we checked in. My blood sugar was 123. Ketones were 0.6. And let's go ahead and do that. And I had gone over and I did find a drum roll, but I couldn't get it on my device. Let me see if I could find one here. Hold on a second. Sound effects. Drum roll. How about this one? Maybe not that one. How about this one? Okay, I like that. Okay. All right, so here it is. And let me go back and see what, let's remind ourselves what Steve said. Steve said 1.2. Jennifer said 57. So here's the drum roll. Let's do that again. Drum roll. And my ketones are 1.5. So Steve, look at you, man. You're pretty close. Yeah, he said 1.2. So my blood sugar is 90. And you'll see that right. So here are the ketones right there. Blood sugar is 90. And then ketones are 1.5. So when we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above that, above 1.5 considered therapeutic. And so right now I'm in the nutritional period, so or range. When we talk about metabolic disease and ketosis and ketogenic diets and so forth, we want ketones to be at least 0.5. Okay, 0.5 or higher is what we want them to be. And so we'll talk about ketones more extensively as we do our check-in tomorrow on our in our check-in in our next episode. So there you are. If I look at the actual graphs, the tan line that you see on the screen, those are blood sugars, and then the turquoise line, the dashed line, those are ketones. And so as my blood sugar has gone up, my insulin level has gone up as well. Because remember, when your blood sugar goes up, your body has to produce insulin, or you have to take insulin to bring it back down. And because my body brought it back down with insulin, once the insulin comes out, ketones have to go away. So that's what you'll see as the blood sugars have gone up, the tan line, you'll see that the turquoise dashed line has gone down. And then as I started fasting, the blood sugars came down, right? That's what you see here at the end of the screen to the right. The blood sugars began coming down, and because the blood sugars are going down, insulin is going down. Because insulin is going down, then my ketones are rising. So remember, ketones and insulin cannot be in the same space for long. It's kind of like matter and antimatter, right? They would destroy each other. So that's what's going on there. All right, let's see. So I think I've done all the things. Remember that as we continue our series, our next episodes next week are going to be overcoming hunger strategically, and then what about fiber and hunger? Those the next couple of episodes that we'll do as we do our check-in. Tomorrow we'll have our fasting review as we normally do, where we'll talk through preparing for the fast, getting through the fast successfully, and then breaking the fast. So I would need you guys to keep me in mind, because the smoker, right? I'm doing it right now. I'm seasoning it. I'm gonna get ready to season some chicken, and it's a new smoker, so I had to do it for 3 hours. It's an electric smoker, by the way. I had to do it for 3 hours. Then I gotta let it cool, and I'm seasoning the chicken, and then I'm gonna put the chicken in. And if I'm not careful, I'm gonna be tempted to eat the chicken. Maybe I should save it until tomorrow to do it, but I wanted to get it out the way because we're having some company coming up this weekend. So I want to get that done. And this is a new recipe I'm trying, so I have some time to, if it doesn't quite work, to do something different. All right. But anyway, so I'm gonna have to kind of be mindful of that. as we move into the rest of this fast. All right, just before I go, let me hop over and see. Let's take a look at some comments that we may have there. Let's pop back down here. And Jennifer says, okay, so Steve was talking about not eating anything from a can. Jennifer says, awesome. Gion says, sorry, I'm eating precious lunch, so I couldn't comment. I eat sweet potato bread, which I made, and some meat. Okay, hey, sounds good. Sounds like that's delicious, Gion. Sounds like a good lunch. When we have our community meetup, Gion, if you're there, I want to see a picture. I think Steve said he was going to show us a picture of something. Was it the creme brulee, Steve? Jennifer says, sounds like a good lunch. Gian says, isn't it hurt finger to check a little bit? Scared to poke my finger. It can hurt a little bit. As a matter of fact, the new Lancets that I'm using are a little tougher on my finger. So yeah, but it has to be done, and I do it. But yeah, it's I've gotten used to it. Steve said, never had sweet potato bread. I think I've had sweet potato bread, and it's actually pretty good. Gion said it's not bad. Gion said, really? No. Steve said no. Oh, I got it. And Steve says yes. Okay, it was the creme brulee that we talked about that he was going to show us. Remember that we are having that community meetup that's coming up here in just a week. So next Wednesday, or it's next Thursday, sorry, which is the 21st. Thursday the 21st is what we're going to be doing our next community meetup. We're moving it 1 week ahead because we are the next week is going to be Thanksgiving. Okay, so let me go ahead and put that into the chat. So if you've not done so yet, make sure you get out there and make sure you register, and that should be coming across to you guys right now, so you could sign up. Awesome. All right. Well, as I always say, that I am excited when I get to spend time in this space with this amazing community. Remember that you have the ability within your grasp to live an unlimited health experience. You can set yourself up for success. You'll hear me talking more about limitless living. We've been talking about unlimited, that we have the power within us to make choices for our health. You can make those choices. And we are learning the tools to be able to do that. We learn that all comes, the unlimited potential comes from our empowerment. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the blogs, with the podcasts, with the shows that we do. We empower with the tools that you're learning as you put into practice. And we encourage with the community that you are an amazing part of. Remember, our hunger is triggered by several things, and that's given by the heat model. We eat because because of habit, because of emotions, because of access, and because of taste. And our job is to understand that about ourselves and to be able to put things in place to help us. Now, I'm going to tell you that you're not going to be able to avoid it all the time, but understanding it, knowing that it's there, gives you a better chance to avoid that amygdala hijack, as we talk about, to allow the prefrontal cortex to overshadow the amygdala so that it doesn't force you to do things that you don't want to do. The COPE model, when we learn about that, we clarify, we observe, we pause, and we execute. Right? Hunger. And the pillars for reversing diabetes: we decrease insulin, we suppress appetite, and we reduce sugar. That's how we do it. That's what we do. And balanced bites, as we've talked about here in this episode about the things that we eat. Everything that we eat counts. And we want to fuel our body with balanced bites. And balanced bites are minimizing processed foods, minimize added sugar. We want to go to whole foods, just like Jennifer was talking about, close to the earth. No added sugar, lean protein, healthy fats, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, tasty and flavorful, and portion controlled. When you show up in this space, I want to make sure that you are joining in on the challenges. Don't just let them be something that's on the shelf. You are setting yourself up for success because you're learning. each of those challenges is an opportunity to implement the things that we've learned. Tell your story when you come on, just like Gian has been talking, and Steve and Jennifer and all the people in the community that's talking about where they are and what they're doing and the successes they're having, and even the challenges that we have. Because those allow us to, as a community, come around and rally around you to let you know that you're not alone. And there are things that you are struggling with that we are too, but people just aren't saying in some cases. So you open up the box. You open up the ability for us to do those things and for us to be in the space. And invite someone to the space. Don't just keep this to yourself. Let folks know that there's a place where they can come, where they can be metabolically healthy. They can set themselves up for success. They can help with reversing their diabetes, improving their weight, helping with blood pressure, high cholesterol, metabolic disease, and on and on and on and on. This place they can come and they can do that. Right, so share the link, invite them, come with them. Don't just send them, you come with them, and so we can all work through the process together. We've got our check-in tomorrow that we will be doing. As we move through our fasting, we will be having our video from the vault on Saturday at 9 p.m. Central, and then Sunday morning at 6 a.m. we'll be doing This Week in Review. And of course, we're right back here on Monday with Dwain Woode, MD, Live as we talk about how to navigate, what mindset do we need, how do we successfully get through the holidays, how do we successfully get through other special days in our lives. And I want to invite you to come because there's a mindset I want you to adopt. And if you do that, then we set ourselves up for success metabolically. As always, glad to be in this space with you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being part of the community. This is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. We'll see you in our next show. Bye-bye.